So we're unmuted now.
Okay, behave ourselves.
Cheyenne, no, second. Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the Hartland Selectboard meeting for Monday, April 21st. Happy Boston Marathon Day. The first order of business are Selectboard minutes from April 7th. We have both regular minutes as well as executive session. I would entertain a motion to accept those.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks. Any discussion?
I got to scroll down from it. I don't have any questions.
No, right. Trace, you okay? Clyde, you okay?
Yep.
All in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. The next order of business are the warrants through today, April 21st. Again, I would entertain a motion to accept those.
I'll make the motion.
Thanks, Jim. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Clyde. Any discussion? John, which elevator repair is on page 1?
He's an electrician.
Is that the maintenance here?
That's this one. They had to replace the button. It was sticky.
Wire that goes
It's still a wire. It's like all buttons.
I gotta ask, John, there's a reason for this, but still, Stony Electric, not that it was a big number or anything, but I kind of find it odd that the invoice description involved a gas line repair, and he's an electrician.
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
Which page are you on?
22.
There's no,
This is the last page. It's page 6 of 7.
there's no wiring
All that.
that's involved with that.
Let's find out. I don't recall that one off the top of my head.
No, they were working after the accident out back. Didn't you have them come in to do whatever?
They
repair
did some work when
when the tree fell?
Yeah, maybe he just dug it with his excavator.
this is it, yeah, Damon Hall. So this is work from, they grounded the gas line.
Yeah, there's no power involved in gas lines. There's a wire they put over the top so that the
Gas lines
sensors
are
can
on the
read it
frequency.
and find out where the gas lines are, but they don't. It's a dangerous concept.
It was required per the state electrical inspector.
But it was just to ground the gas line?
They bonded gas pipes and sealed off PVC pipes per
Okay,
state
I
electrical
get it,
inspector.
I get it. They probably had to have an electrical, a grounding rod near that so that the gas line didn't get hit or something to that effect. Okay, I get it.
John, do we, every once in a while, check the rates between Martinsville Hydro and Green Mountain Power?
We do not typically, compare rates.
That's it for me. Okay. Clyde, you'll say second.
I haven't got anything yet.
Okay, John?
I'm all set.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Okay, moving on to public comments. Are there any public comments?
Did you ever find out about the North Hartland School? You said you had somebody that could test it for lead and asbestos.
Right.
I think that's a result.
The board has not acted on that yet, so we need to go out and find a contractor
If we
who
choose.
does that.
Yeah.
So I think there hasn't been a
What-
decision made.
Yeah, but what's the benefit of even doing that at this point? We're closed.
So if you're gonna demolish the building,
Yes.
you need to test it for asbestos
Prior to
in the land
demolition.
prior to
Prior
demolition.
to demolition.
So it's like a problem down the road. if we decide to-
Exactly.
Yep,
Yeah.
excellent.
So you talked about demolishing, but I was gonna suggest suggestions from the public regarding what to do with that building, whether you're gonna take it down. There might be some reusable material, like those hardwood floors.
There's not,
The windows could be used for greenhouses.
the windows are junk. They've been broken a couple of times.
So I
Whole building is junk.
understand what you're saying. We just aren't there yet to decide. As far as windows are concerned, if they're old windows, they used to use a certain type of caulking material and has PCBs in it, so it has to be removed. So I think if it's prior to 1974, then it's many times those windows are considered a hazard because of the caulking. But again, we're gonna have to do the analysis if we decide to demolish the building, but, you know, and I think there could be materials in there that we could take out that people may want.
Not
you
if
know.
there's lead and asbestos.
Well,
Right, yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I think the important thing is the immediate decision was to turn the power off and
Right,
not heat it to drain it. So going forward, your questions are very valid.
Do we have to, I'm new to this, so do we have to bring this to the town to find out if we want to have it demolished, or
We have no action at this point.
there's no action?
But I would think
No
in
discussion.
light of the conversation at town meeting, probably would.
I think I don't believe we are required to bring it to the voters
Right.
To take the building down?
to do something with town buildings.
Well, maybe we
There could be an argument made for the benefit of having a broader discussion, however.
Right.
We are not required to do that.
So do we want to put it on the agenda for, let's say, a couple of months from now, because we have a lot of things on the agenda that's already.
We can put, I mean, it's good to keep the North Carolina School on the agenda, so it doesn't fall off everybody's kind of radar.
Like, you know, town plan and Quechee Road are probably
Right,
problems we've got to solve first.
right. But, yeah, we don't want to lose sight of it, so, yeah.
Down the road, we can
Yeah.
put it back on
We
the
can keep it
agenda.
on the, I think it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, okay.
Other public comments, anything online? No. Okay. I would like to say two things. A quick thank you to the Garden Club. It was great last week to walk in the front door and see see pansies growing, you know, just the spring flowers. It's just really nice to sort of see, and I appreciate the Garden Club's efforts. And I want to say a thank you to the Vermont Center for Eco Studies. They've recently updated us that they are ready for year 2 of the Plant Providence study that's going on at the library. And they're staying active and communicating to us, and some signage is coming, John, I believe.
Correct. We can just make that
So
cover, yes.
everyone will be able to see what's going on. Moving on to old business, we have a Hartland Diner liquor license.
It had been my anticipation that Nicole would be joining us this evening to answer questions. That was, of course, and there's nobody online. So at this point, some of the questions that were raised last week, I did get an email. There is no anticipated change in hours or service. This is simply an adding service to the existing business. So it's beer and wine only, no change in hours, no change in expected, no other changes expected.
Yeah, excuse me for not being able to talk. My only question would be really, is it clear with the landlord? Right, because if you're gonna do something different, you know, is it within your lease, is the landlord okay with it?
I don't know if that's our responsibility.
May not be, but given that there's residents above the business, I think it's, you know, it's a question.
Yeah,
If they choose
yeah.
not to answer the question, then yeah, it's fine.
And Jim, as you know, we don't enforce, if we approve it, we don't enforce the liquor license. If there was any infringements on the license, it would be the liquor commission, right, they're doing that.
Of course, these licenses we get have about 1/3 of the information that they have.
Yeah, and this one in particular, as a new license, has, very little information in there. They tend to fill out over the years. If you look at, some of the other liquor licenses that we approve yearly, there is more information in there. But there's, as a new one, it's pretty slim.
It's under review every year,
Yeah, every year.
so if we feel that something happens there,
If there's reasons to not approve it.
Yeah.
If there are problems moving forward, that are, not necessarily for law enforcement, whoever it might be. They do get, these places, they send in folks who like try to buy, beer and wine and alcohol who are underage and things like that.
So John has received an email from the owner with some additional information. Do we feel that's enough to go forward with the decision tonight? I'm sorry,
I
John.
haven't seen the email.
So that email just answered those questions that came up in the last meeting about there's no change in anticipated hours, and it's beer and wine only. It's just adding to the existing menu at the Hartland Diner.
Okay.
I'm disappointed that she didn't show an interest to come to the meeting knowing that we had questions. I'm curious as to how much of a priority this is for her. But willing to go along with the board.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking for, what's the general flavor on, normally speaking, we don't ask questions about the operation or what they're doing.
We did on the one new license that we approved, which was the Peacefield
Wise
Farm.
Pines.
Wise Pines.
Wise Pines.
So that owner came in
Remember that
and had the
one?
discussion.
Okay.
But all the other renewals. So
Yeah,
there's
our
no
renewals,
question
yeah.
there.
We could send
I mean, it's the same number of hours. I mean, they were only open in the morning to what, mid-afternoon?
mid-early afternoon, yeah. So, you could delay again until the next meeting and request them to attend. Or,
I think Trey said something very important in his question, we have information. I too am disappointed that the person didn't come when they were asked to. But it is a yearly license and we could act on it.
Make the motion, man. Okay. Please? Yeah.
I'm kind of like muddling on this one.
I got about
So personally, I don't drink, okay, but I'm not the rest of the world either, and I need to be open-minded for everybody else in this town, so I'm sure there's lots of people that would like to be able to go there and have a beer, you know what I mean? And I'm totally fine with it. I'm totally fine with that.
So is that a motion?
I didn't hear a motion there. All those who don't volunteer, take one step back.
I make a motion that we approve license application number 56599 for what kind of a license is it?
it's a.
First class.
Yeah, first class.
For the
Heartland Diner.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Abstain.
Opposed?
I'm an abstention.
Okay, I was asking for,
Aye.
so there's three,
Just put part of this motion, can we have,
Okay, opposed?
Abstain.
There's no, I didn't hear a no.
He abstained.
he's abstaining, Trace is waffling.
I'm waffling.
So you can abstain then, which is like,
I can abstain, yeah.
okay. Do you want to add an amendment?
yes, I wanted the amendment to agree, to state what John got in the email as far as no change in business hours and whatever.
I'll second that amendment.
Okay, so at least we have something on the record.
We
Which
should-
was no change in hours, or was there anything else?
Okay, I don't think we need to revote.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
There's-
Can that just be a friendly amendment?
Yeah, if there is an agreement, agree.
Okay. Okay, so we have 3 votes for it, and we have a friendly amendment. So that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Two abstentions.
John, do you have a Station Road updates?
So there's Station Road, just a quick update. After meeting with Trace and BJ Masson, the road foreman, on site a couple weeks ago, there was some action taken to kind of clean up the existing parking area. It was staked, so it is, there's an edge to the parking area now. We pulled some existing kind of remnants of road signs and things like that. I need to reach out to the church, but given that it was, the pastor was sick and it was Holy Week, I gave them, they seem like they have other priorities right now. So we will reach out to continue that conversation this coming week and moving forward.
But there has been progress.
There has been progress,
Very
yes.
Good, okay. Good, anything else on that? Okay, moving on to the last old business item, the Hartland Boards and Commissions pledge. We talked about this at the last meeting, that we were looking to adopt in principle, what the Vermont League of Cities and Towns has on their website for such a pledge. And John put in our packets a modified one that would be good for the Hartland Selectboard, and my assumption is that we would then substitute that for the Conservation Commission or the Planning Commission in the future. So folks had a chance to take a look at it.
Yeah. But is there an actual municipal code of ethics?
There is, yes and no. Yes and no. There is a state statute that they're calling a municipal code of ethics. However, it is just the statutory language. The Vermont Ethics Commission calls that a municipal code of ethics. I think, again, they're kind of building the plane as they're flying it here when it comes to ethics policies from the state. So yes, with a kind of caveat.
So that was my question as well, Jim, what you picked up on, what municipal code was it?
In the municipal code of ethics, again, that statutory reference is largely dedicated to talking about conflicts of interest.
Oh, so this is municipal code within the state code.
It's the Vermont Ethics Commission, which was formed in 2024, I believe, said by 2025 there would have a municipal code of ethics in place. The statute is in place. Again,
I wouldn't reference something that's not in place.
so
You could reference the statute. There's also.
But the statute, if you go to the Vermont Ethics Commission website, and there's a link to the municipal code of ethics, which is what they're calling it. It is that statute.
Right. There's also a whole chapter in the Select Board Handbook on conflicts of interest.
Conflicts of interest, right? And it's talked about in the policies that you all signed at the beginning of every.
But this is different.
Right.
Yeah, well, I guess, I think it's the right thing. I'm just not sure if you link it to the municipal policy, if you link it to the statutes, or you link it to the Select Board Handbook, right? Or you don't link it. You just say follow conflict of interest guidelines.
What if we just cited the statute, GSA, I don't know what it is, title,
Sure,
blah, blah, blah.
Sure, I think.
Or strike that and title, just make it more generic and say, state rules or state statute.
We can reference the state statute. Again, I put municipal code of ethics in there because that's what it is called. And again, I think we're kind of debating semantics to a certain extent. But I can see the confusion in it.
It's just hard to agree to something that you don't see in front of you.
When I first read it, I thought Hartland had a code of ethics.
No, that is the state of Vermont municipal code of ethics.
Yeah. No, I hear you, but I'm just adding to the confusion that it was causing.
So we can put the statutory reference in there.
I didn't pick up any other mistakes or things that I felt should be clarified a little bit more.
On the last bullet, I was just, all the statements start with sort of a verb or whatever. And I was wondering, instead of saying remember, I have my behavior as a board member can impact the reputation of the entire select board or as well as the community we serve. I think that,
Just the change in tone from the previous
yeah.
kind of 7 to the last one. Okay.
And again, the targets ourselves, the 2 commissions, and
Any other boards and committees that the select board appoints in the future?
You'll change then to make it.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So the other thing is, do you have remember that, right, is
The-
maybe instead of saying remember that, we just say the authority of the select board is vested in the public body and not an individual member.
Right. Yeah, because it's, the rest of them are managed, respecting courage. Yeah.
okay.
2 of them are kind of softer. Can I take your notes, Mike?
So do we want to wait until those changes are incorporated on a clean copy at the next meeting?
Yeah, and I'll send out what is the municipal code of ethics, so people have it.
But, John, correct me if I'm wrong, we're doing this as a board, we're not doing this as a requirement of the municipal
We are not.
board. So this is just, we as a governing body would like to have a certain decorum on all organizations that are representing the town.
And furthermore,
So
we
I just want to
recognize,
make that clear to everybody that, because there is going to come a time, I think the implementation starts next year or whenever,
Yeah.
is with this whole municipal code of ethics is going to be a requirement. I think we have to do trainings and so on. I mean, it's going to be required. So I just wanted to.
okay. I forgot about the training part, because then I was thinking we could just have a verbiage that would sort of say, we follow the spirit of, but in fact, it's going to be mandated.
Yeah, it's going to be mandated. I am the designated person for the town of Hartland.
You're the ethicist?
Something, no, that is the right term.
Just don't say that one more time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry?
Blind leading the blind?
Right, yeah, hey, wait a second, wait. Took me a second, but no, I disagree.
Okay, I think we're finished with that.
Yes,
Okay.
so I'll make those changes, send out a little bit more information, we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to new business, the Quechee Road summer maintenance. We also,
Again, there were people who needed to attend this meeting, and I believe will be attending.
should we slide this?
Can we move it, can we just delay this agenda item for a few minutes?
We'll move item 1 down past item 5, and, okay, if people are comfortable with that?
Yeah,
Okay,
that sounds
good.
fine.
Then moving on to the 2017 readoption plan that has emerged in the last 4 or 5 days. Do you want to give us an update on that?
Yes. So we have a plan moving forward to readopt the 2017 town plan, but we have like readoption plan version 3.0, because we've gone through this before. So there's currently a warned public hearing for May 5th, Monday, May 5th at 5 p.m., which will be a public hearing. There is a warned public there will be a warned public hearing for Monday, May 12th.
Those are both existing select board meetings.
The May 5th one is not. It would be a special meeting. No, sorry, the May 12th one is not. It would be a special meeting. The May 5th is a regularly scheduled meeting, first Monday in May.
So they have to be warned 15 days, not 15 days apart.
15 days, and that has been verified by an attorney. And in order to get it readopted by the expiration date of May 15th, we needed to do this.
And did you say 5 p.m.?
5 p.m.,
And then May 12th was at
5 p.m.,
both of them.
and then May 12th, we will have a 5:30 special select board meeting to formally readopt the 2017 town plan. And then this process will be over.
Okay.
And theoretically,
Temporarily over.
Temporarily over, yes.
all over again, and just in the nick of time.
Yes, and done before May 15th, which is when it expires.
Okay.
Is it the 15th or the 25th?
The 15th.
It is.
Do you want to wait till the town manager report to finish the rest of the division of labor for the 2025 plan?
Since we're talking about it now, we can just, so the Two Rivers Regional Planning Commission is then assisting the Hartland Planning Commission on making the necessary changes to the 2025 town plan, which will take a few months. So we will see that adoption process beginning from the Planning Commission probably midsummer.
Yeah.
So it's pretty strict. There's a handful of changes. The Two Rivers is leading the process, so I have confidence that it will move along quite smoothly.
And I found myself still confused on the one piece. I'm surprised there's probably 30 others that I didn't realize. That they will turn to us for comments after Two Rivers introduces their edits, and then they'll come to us for
Correct.
our edits, even before they pass it officially to us, to give them a chance to incorporate any sort of, to make sure that we don't have any conceptual issues with the town plan, before, to save them a step.
So before the public hearing,
Yes, before our first public hearing.
or before their first public hearing.
That's a good question, I don't know that.
So there's an opportunity for select board feedback on both sides of that public hearing.
Okay.
It would be good to have a 2025 town plan that is broadly agreed upon. The planning commission holds a public hearing. Once their public hearing is held, it becomes the select board's plan. The select board can make any changes they want to that plan without having to send it back to the planning commission for another public hearing. They have in essence been babysitting the town plan.
But if we're required to do one public hearing?
They are required to do one, the select board is required to do two.
Right. But if we make significant changes,
I don't believe
we
in,
need to do an additional public hearing, I believe.
We have to do two no matter what.
we have to do two no matter what. Right, two no matter what. So I think that once the planning commission holds their public hearing, any changes that need to be made or are desired to be made can be made without it going back to the planning commission.
But it really shouldn't be because of that feedback.
Correct. In an ideal world, then that's what Two Rivers is doing in the next few months.
Okay.
We're trying to not do what happened last time where we felt there were enough changes that we sent it back to the planning commission.
I think it's a good point.
Okay.
But I would suggest people start reading it now.
So
I took one pass through it in January, but I'll take another pass.
there's been changes. Two Rivers now has the plan. They're putting together a table of contents, things like page numbers, things along those lines. So there will be some minor changes. I will get new copies to everybody of the plan that they're working on right now to everybody.
And Tom, that's the point that I was worried about, is that we thought it was a firm plan. I don't have the number in front of me, but there's now maybe going to be another generation of it that's going to.
But right now, they're working sort of on a hearing draft.
They are working on
So what they're doing now, there's going to be edits made to it, obviously.
Yeah.
But it is the one they're going to be using, so that if you wanted to, what is difficult with these things is that the planning commission goes through all this process, and then the select board just beats it up. And it just really, it makes for really bad relations with the planning commission, and then B, it just delays it.
Yeah.
And so if we could at least try to stay on top of it a little bit. I have been doing it, and so Two Rivers has reached out to me and say they would like to see comments from me. But I'm more than willing, as far as the select board member, to take your comments and incorporate it into a draft as well.
Right.
So at some juncture.
The one caution I'd throw in the wind is that if we're trying to implement a policy change, we should all be at that table and, have the discussion and vote on it.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I think it's good news that the readoption is on its way. Those two, May 5th and the May 12th. put on your seatbelts because we're about ready to do the 2025 to, yeah, and the three players are Two Rivers Planning Commission and ourselves.
Correct.
And the public.
And, yes.
And the public, which triggered a number of things last time, the public comments. Okay, just sticking to the commission and committee contracts. John and I attended the planning commission last week, and a discussion came up about their budget, and there was a request to change their budget, and John very clearly said that was set in November. And as I was listening, there was a lot of discussion, and there was actually a motion made to have a dialogue with the select board for the purpose of a dialogue and keeping communications open, but also for a request. So we, as a board, for the communications tower, the ITW, we made a motion that reflected our agreement that any contact with lawyers on the ITW was to go through the town manager. And any communication based on that contract that might emerge would again go through the town manager in the spirit of eliminating some of the things that have happened in the past. So in thinking about it, and I talked with John a little bit, this is not just a legal contract, but we should really come up with language for any contract that isn't in their budget, under their control, and to some degree, most contracts have to be approved by the town on that part. So what we're looking for tonight is a discussion of, we need to clarify, is the idea that we built upon for the ITW, is that something that we should actually make a motion that any legal contract that beyond a budgeted amount that's in the commission's budget come through the town? It makes good business sense to me.
I'm thinking it's the town manager's responsibility by statute.
Right, so to be clear, it is my job. Once the budget is approved, it is my job to manage the budget.
So I think he's the guy.
No,
If he needs to exceed the budget
I
for some
understand
important
that,
issue, he comes to us.
but we had a situation where someone sat up in front of us saying that we weren't going to do any more legal work. And then all of a sudden there was a new contract for legal work.
Yeah, no, I mean, nobody except John or us, if it's something beyond the operational budget, has the right to sign a contract on behalf of the town.
So I think that two things have happened in the past kind of 2 years, that there's been two engagement letters signed by groups that are not myself or the select board.
I think it's a training.
Right, and admittedly, there was a period in time where a lot of things were like in the air and everybody was kind of picking up extra work. However, some clarity on the fact that if we need to contract or hire an attorney or an outside contractor to do the work, that needs to flow through. That is my job and my job only.
So I mean, I think it's an educational opportunity, right? We can review the statute in the, what the town manager owns and say, you need to understand that by statute, all this stuff has to go through the town manager. I don't think we need a motion. I think it's already defined.
And I haven't asked for a motion yet because I wanted a discussion. I'd love to hear what other people think. And we do have a request in the form of a motion coming from the planning commission to act on this.
For a contract or for a budget change?
There was a vagueness.
I was at that meeting.
They wanted more money in their legal budget.
Right.
Right.
The same thing was said at the last planning commission meeting, that the budget was passed, the budget was approved. It's my job to manage the budget.
Yeah, and I think we should stand by that. And if there is an urgent need for legal assistance, and it can't be met, with, you know, within the operational budget, then John can come to us.
But that, if they need legal assistance, they're gonna have to retain an attorney, which means we have to sign a contract,
But which John.
Which I-
which John has to sign.
Right.
To me, it's a non-issue.
Yeah.
It has to come to.
I think it's a communication
If
issue.
the planning commission disagrees with the town manager, they can come and talk to us, but, generally speaking, planning commissions do not have a legal budget. for legal
Contract
fees.
signing authority.
They, for that,
Yeah.
you generally are representing the town.
Right.
And so I would not support them having a line item for legal fees.
Right, and that was discussed at the last planning commission meeting.
I'm sorry, have they had the finances before?
They have, there was,
They have before.
for specific reasons.
So now
If
we're
you
telling
look-
them
yeah, if you look at the town reports, there's a long period of time where, no, there was no money. We added money.
Right.
You know, for maybe a budget, maybe 2 budget years, we might have added some money,
Okay.
because we knew that there was a legal thing in the works, right? So we wanted to be able to budget for
So
it.
we approved,
Yeah.
so they came to us and we approved the
Yeah,
money.
that's true.
You know, we
That's true.
didn't itemize what it was to be used for. There was also money that was for Two Rivers at that time. It was a
They cover more than one
professional
thing.
sort of piece. No.
So I would rather see is the select board have a line item for legal fees and professional services that the planning commission can access with our permission.
I think we do. We have a legal services line item in our budget, in our annual budget.
Right, so, what I'm just trying to state is that I think we made a huge mistake giving them a lot of money for legal fees and not having any control. That's,
Yeah, I'm with you. We have one line item for the town, for legal expenses, and we decide what the priorities are that drop from that
That's
fund.
right.
Yeah.
and that way,
More specifically.
we're not gonna run into the situation that we had this year, because they would have had to have they would not have had permission to retain an attorney, because we didn't give it to them. But they had the money, and so they took action
Right.
after they had met with
And
us.
and I think it just ties back to the central point of control. for
Right.
this, and that legally is the town manager.
Yeah.
I think the three of us are sent on that one.
Yeah.
I have one question about this. So if they go to John and say, we need money for legal fees, and he denies them that, is that it?
They could,
Because someone just mentioned they could come to
They
the
could-
select
they could-
board and ask the
I'm
select board.
suggesting they could.
they could come to the select board, right, they
Which
could
is
come to the select board and make
overruling
their
your
case.
decision.
It would,
Well, it might be,
You're not
it
funding.
might be additional money that we have to fund
right,
outside of the operational budget.
So when you deny it, you say, I'm denying this, but if you really want that money, you come to the select board meeting.
No.
Then maybe we'll change our minds.
So let's play this out. They're gonna say they want money for legal fees, right?
Sure.
They're gonna come to us and say, the Trace Tancredi Corporation wants to build 200 units of housing in a deer yard, and we want to appeal the decision. Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. And they're gonna have to come to us and say, we want to appeal this decision. Do you support that appeal?
Yeah.
A planning commission generally does not unilaterally appeal decisions without talking to the select board.
No, I agree with that.
Okay.
I'm just
That's
a
all
little hung
so-
up on the
so
fact that.
John is not gonna be the sole bad person on
And he's
this.
not gonna deny the request, he's gonna
Because
say you need to bring
it's
this
gonna
to the
come to
select
us.
Right, he's not denying the request, that's what I was getting at. You're not gonna deny the request, you're gonna say you're gonna have to go in front of the select board to get the money.
right, unless,
Okay.
I mean, I think there's, in an operational perspective, if our legal line budget is exceeded for some other reason, or it feels for whatever reason, like we're not
So going
spinning
forward-
our wheels, if there is in this example, yes, that would not be the case, and we wouldn't unilaterally, I would not unilaterally say no to people who submit
And
requests.
that's how that system works, I agree with that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and there would be potential minor requests where they're want a document reviewed legally or something like that.
exactly. The point is,
That you could approve and it would be great.
right, exactly. At this point, we have attorneys that we have engagement letters signed and we have working relationships with. Over the past few years, that has expanded for various other reasons. So now people are working independently. We need to rein it back in, so where things are flowing through me as the town manager to manage things such as contracts and contractual services.
I could read you the motion from the minutes. I think it appeared today in the minutes, but I think the important thing is the planning commission is coming to us saying, you know, one or two members are saying, what happened to our line item? We want more money. And others are asking for clarification of how the process works. So that's why we're having the discussion.
So they got kind of training / communication,
Right, yeah, no,
explain the process.
Right, I want to be clear, it's also not just the planning commission, this exists in somewhere else in town happening. And I'm pointing at BJ, but I'm not actually.
You get this, right? We're good with conservation.
Yeah, Rob,
Is that what the issue is, so money?
The other thing
Requested
I want to mention too is Phil and I went to a planning commission meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we made it perfectly clear to them that they never requested any money when we were doing budgeting. That they're requesting money after the budget had been approved.
Right.
And we just can't, I mean, that's a terrible precedent, unless there's some extenuating circumstances. And we didn't cut their budget. Their budget is now what it used to be.
okay, so with all that, I'm hearing that,
Hearing general agreement and no motion.
Yeah, we don't need
Yeah,
okay. So how do we respond to the planning commission?
I will respond to the planning commission. At this point, the budget is approved, there is no additional, like, if you want to,
But I think they need to understand
yeah,
the legal process.
Right.
Not the legal process, but
the actual process
what
for
the
requests.
responsibilities are by
And
statute.
that's part of the motion, is to sort of, okay.
So,
And
but again,
and Cheyenne can do a great job with the minutes, and it'll be request, be in that.
So, one
No
question.
pressure, Cheyenne.
Yeah, no,
Type that up
So
nicely.
when they requested the funding before, was it on last year's budget or on this year's budget?
This goes back multiple years.
Okay,
This predates me.
So if they come and request funding now for something and we approve it, we should be trying to support our
It's even a
planning
little
commission as much as we possibly
A
can.
little
I
bit
believe.
worse, where they entered into a contract without telling anyone.
Okay.
And we got the bill,
I got you.
yeah. So, and of course,
Because they don't have the authority to enter into contracts, right?
yeah.
Going forward.
Okay,
I would just be sensitive with the communication.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
because it's a teaching moment, it's not, kind of putting up guardrails.
Like, we're trying
Right, exactly. The same thing existing with the library. So it's the same conversation that we've been having. So,
okay, Rob is here to give us some updates on activities with our Conservation Commission. Rob?
Yeah, so this is just sort of, here are some things that we're working on.
you gotta get closer, Rob, people are gonna yell at us.
And we want to see the contract at that point, right?
Did you guys all get a copy of this?
We did, yeah.
So, the first thing on here is emerald ash borer. It's been found in multiple places around town. I think we can assume it's everywhere. There are a bunch of trees on Brothers Road that are already very dead. There are some other ones around that are fast dying. There's nothing we can do about that. They're just gonna die. But one of the things that back probably 5 or 6 years ago, the state had developed a little app that people could use for inventorying ash trees in their towns. And I was thinking that with a little modification, that app might be a useful tool for helping to prioritize not just ash trees, but hazard trees everywhere in town. And basically what you do is you take a picture of the tree, you enter a bunch of data, and then it figures out where you are, and it
GPS
puts that in, so you can pull up a map, and then it'll have little dots for all of the trees that you put in, and if you click on the dot, it brings up the information, so you can say, this tree is a real problem, or this tree is dying, but it's not an issue. You can put in whatever kind of information you want. So I don't know, like, I've never heard of anybody using it that way, but it seems like something that a person could do.
And these would be trees along the roadside
Yeah,
as opposed
Yeah,
to on my woodlot or something.
right. When we did our road surveys, we estimated there was something like 3,000 ash trees or more along the roads. So that's a lot to sort of keep track of, which is why having a tool might be a useful thing.
Tool to be used by whom?
Well, I would assume it would be used by you and the road crew to make those decisions, because you guys are the ones who would make that call. We don't call that. There are a couple of ash trees over by the covered bridge that look to me like they're dying. And,
The Martinsville.
The Martinsville
Bridge, yeah. And they have worried me for a long time. But, again, that's not my call. So that's
I think that, so I know this was started a number of years ago when we first started hearing about it. One was, there wasn't great coordination with the highway departments on this. They were like conservation crews. And the other thing was, you say there's 3,000 trees. There's no way we can take care of 3,000. So we're getting budgets of like, because I was part of this years ago, $200,000 for just cutting trees. So we need to try to make it reasonable, like and I don't know, you're here, can we try to work with the road crew and try to find out, I mean, how aware are they, or, or can we put in a certain part of town orange ribbons around it or something? No, I'm serious, because,
Which we have, there's a tree on.
I mean, I don't know quite how to do it, and I'm not trying to be critical about this, but the end result is, then we do anything. People aren't doing very much. And so how can we make it so we're actually slowly trying to address this problem?
right.
And we cut a few every year. Most of the trees that we're cutting, we're prioritizing dead trees, so some might be maples, they're not all ash trees, But there is an ash tree on Bowers Road that put a ribbon on. It's next to a power line, so tree company's going to have to get that in our next year's budget. So in July, I'll make a tree list and we'll have them.
To that point though, we get about 5 to 10 trees per year.
I mean, if you really did an inventory,
Right.
you'd find
Yeah,
thousands.
yeah, $200,000 is probably not scratching the surface of what we would actually need to address this
I mean, it's like-
issue.
How can we assist the Conservation Commission?
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's what I'm getting
So, Rob, I
at.
think
But
one
I
of the
think it's a
things
great idea.
Right, I think one of the things that would be beneficial is if you all, as a conservation commission, could maybe not map them, but flag to us and to the road crew the ones that are critical this year. It's it'd be an ongoing project, right? Like these 10 this year, maybe those ones can wait a few more years.
And some of them we can get.
Right.
It's just, some of them we can't. There's power lines or how big and dangerous they are. We're not gonna.
Yeah, I mean, we're not trying to step into the process of cutting trees along the roads. I feel like that's John and the road crew's decision to do that. What we're trying to do is figure out how can we somehow make that process easier with all of the thousands of trees we know are going to be dying over the next 10 years.
I think if that app was, as you describe it, I'm wondering, BJ, if some members of your crew would put it on their phone, and as they're going about the work, they would just be able to sort of say the tree, and in fact, the user of that would be
Yeah.
would be the highway crew yourself, and you would have a, more of a record of it. I just found myself, making a note to do some follow-up. Some years ago, I have a brother-in-law who's an arborist, a town arborist in New Jersey, and they had the emerald ash borer down there years and years before we did. I just don't know, I'd love to ask, where do they stand now? Are those trees, is the infection still raging? Is it getting worse? What have they done with the trees? Of course, town budgets for trees in those municipalities are a lot different than our budgets on that part.
Yeah, so in Vermont, it hit in orange, I think, 2018. So they would be 6-7 years ahead of us.
Yeah.
And it might be worth talking to them too and saying, what's happened?
Yeah.
And try and find some town that looks like Hartland and has a budget like Hartland and say, what are you doing? Are you doing anything?
Yeah.
Is that a problem? So that we at least have, we have a clue what's coming down the road.
Yeah, I remember attending a meeting, and I'm repeating myself here, I'm probably going way too deep here, in Morristown, New Jersey, where my brother-in-law was asked to come, and some of the ash trees were in front of the house that George and Martha Washington slept in during this winter of whatever that was. But they were investigating pesticides or herbicides in order to try to save it, and the question was too late, it was too late by that time. Okay, Rob, you have another.
Yeah, so I have several. At Sumner Falls, last summer, we had some teams of high school kids come in with the Upper Valley Trails Alliance, and they built 2 new trails, hiking trails. One starts right by the gate, and it goes kind of north up to the border and then loops back around to the access road. The other starts at the access road and goes up to the top of the ridge where those cellar holes are, and that comes back down to the back of the upper parking area. And so those trails are now walkable, but we haven't publicized it very much because on the first trail, there are a couple of steepish spots that we were wondering if we should either put stairs in or do something to make them a little easier to navigate. The other one, when you get up by the cellar holes, there's a big washout, a very steep ravine there. And we wanted to put some sort of a barrier so that people hiking wouldn't go over the edge. So those are in the works. We had the people from the Trails Alliance in last week to look at the first trail, and they gave us an estimate of about $2,000 to put in those 2 sets of steps. That's about half material and half labor. We haven't figured out if we want to try and do that yet, but at least now we know what we're looking at again. We've also just written a tiny grant proposal with the Association of Vermont Conservation Commissions. It's a $700 grant that would allow us to do some water quality assessment in Shepherd Brook there where it goes across Sumner Falls. Because right now, that brook, we don't really know anything about the water in that brook. It's on the Basin 10 tactical plan as a brook of interest, but nobody knows. And that particular brook goes through a couple of distressed properties that I could easily imagine would be contributing pollutants to it. And so we want to do some inorganic screening, some organic screening, some looking at the macroinvertebrates and just kind of get a sense of what's going on in Shepherd Brook. So if we get that grant, we have $700 to do that. There's no match from the town required. It's just volunteer labor that we'll take care of. So that's that. The other piece about Sumner Falls is the parking. We would like to work toward having some spots there in the winter time that we could, so if people wanted to go down there and ski or snowshoe, they could find a place to park. Right now, the way things get plowed, it's often impossible to park there. And there are a couple of spots near the gate that are kind of on a slope that you can pull in a car if there's not a lot of snow. But if you were to move the gate back a little bit, deeper in, there's a spot on the right that used to be part of the old turnpike, I think. It's flattish and it's, you could put a few cars there. And so that's something we're pondering, is if that's a possibility. That would mean moving the gate or just taking out the gate. And I don't know now why the gate is there. It used to be there to keep people from going down and parking. And maybe to keep people off the road when the road is in rough shape, but
So the gate serves a purpose now, definitely in springtime, before the road is ready for use. We get consistent requests to open the gate beginning in, early March.
I think the gate's also there for safety reasons. If that gate, that was open during the winter time, there'd be a lot of people trying to get in the water down there. And it's not a very safe place.
So I don't think that removing the gate, I would say, is not on the table.
Okay.
BJ and I can talk at some point over the summer about if there's an opportunity to move the gate, but in terms of highway priorities, I'd venture it.
I'm not sure they want access there in the nighttime hours.
No, I don't think, but if we move the gate down, whatever, 10 or 15 yards, whatever it might be.
Not sure it doesn't.
Yeah, I'm not sure, what that looks like, so.
Yeah, so I mean, we haven't talked to John about this, we're just exploring. I think it's in the management plan that we wrote, that we brought to you back several years ago, that we wanted to look at the parking around there and see how we can improve that. But one of the things, I think, if we could make it some parking so that it would be more accessible in the winter, I think that's a good thing. We also, speaking of parking, over by Katy Brook Trail in the town forest, we were going to explore how to improve the parking there too, because, there again, you've got like one spot, maybe two. In the wintertime, nothing pretty much. So that's it. Okay. Then, commercial water withdrawal. There's a company in Claremont that regularly comes to the town garage and fills up 10,000-gallon tankers of water all summer long. And then it takes them and irrigates up in, Hartford, or fills up people's swimming pools. The state passed some new regulations about how much water people could withdraw, and if they withdraw more than a certain amount, they have to register with the state and keep track of what they're withdrawing. But all of those rules depend on the company self-identifying and self-reporting, and this company doesn't do that. And so what we would like to do is see if we can figure out a local solution to that, which might look like the select board saying any commercial water withdrawer has to, if they're gonna take more than, 1,000 gallons, they have to have permission of the select board. And that way, if that kind of solves the enforcement problem, because then if they're there pulling 10,000 gallons of water out of the brook, then you can say, show us your permit from the select board, and they'll either have it or they won't. And there's no self-reporting involved there. So that's something we will come back and talk more about, but it is a problem, particularly when we have a really dry summer and Lowell's Brook is getting smaller and smaller. Having somebody come and pull out 10,000 gallons a day is a serious hit on the brook. So
Is that the only company you know of, BJ, that's doing that?
it's the only one that I know of.
Yeah, we talked to them last year and they said they do documentation. They do take care, write down how much they take every day, and they're under the state limit or something like that.
Yeah, well, I talked to the state last year and I said, can you give me any of the records of this company and what they've withdrawn? And they looked in their records and they said, we have no record of them ever withdrawing anything. So maybe they're keeping track, but they're not telling anybody else.
Yeah, they're usually pretty good if it's a dry season, they're only grabbing one a day, one load or 2 loads a day.
Right.
It's wet season, they grab a lot. They're going right up to northern nurseries and they just, they, all day long, every day, all summer, they're bringing water up there. So it's northern nurseries that's hiring them.
But they come, you know, they drive along the Sugar River, they cross the Connecticut River. There are big rivers that they can draw water from. And they come here because I think it's easier and it's probably cleaner.
So, I'm sorry, excuse my ignorance, are they just taking it from behind the firehouse
Yeah,
there?
they bring their own pump.
They drop a pump in the brook and fill up their tanker.
It's right where the fire, hydrant thing is out back.
So Rob, as the Conservation Commission continues to think about this, I would encourage you all to come back to the board with something that doesn't require town staff to do the enforcement of it.
Yeah.
Right, so in the one you laid out, right, like, town staff are going and knocking on the window to say, hey, do you have a permit, right?
I'm happy to go knock on the door.
Right.
But I need
I
something
think it's
that-
reasonable to post. You know, can we implement a fine for not having a permit? $1,000 fine?
I think we could implement a fine, but it's the enforcement of that rule that I see as the biggest challenge just in this discussion.
So, I mean,
I think they're getting away with it being a town property, they can go on town property, it's wide open. Brook is-
but if we have a policy, I see 2 things. Number 1, heavy fine if you don't get a permit. Number 2, let's charge $500 for a permit. Yeah, I mean, how much are they getting for the water?
Right.
I think that's a great idea, I think they should, I think also, I can talk to you later, but you have that company coming from Cornish twice a day down Sumners, we just dump $5,000 worth of material down Sumners every year.
Yeah.
You know, they're coming twice a day.
Yeah, it sounds like they're turning a profit on our natural resources
And it's not in town.
what's that?
And it's not even in town. I mean, northern Europe.
Yeah, my gut instinct tells me that this is wrong. In every way, shape, and form. So,
Yeah,
I
I
don't think
think
that's a good idea to
the
let
trick is
them do
finding
this.
something that's easy to enforce.
Right.
So that we don't have to have somebody sitting down there, you know, watching for them all the time. But they're down, you know, when they come, it takes them a long time to fill up one of those trucks.
But
So
they're doing that
sitting
in
there
summer,
for a long
fall,
time.
No,
And
they're
if some,
filling up at our
Just here,
shop.
not down there.
No.
I mean, I think I'm out for businesses and small businesses, New Hampshire or Vermont. But, so I believe that if we decide to not allow them to pull water from there, that we should give them a length of time to find someplace else to go. But
There's gotta be plenty of boat ramps around here.
I just personally feel it's not a good plan.
so we will follow up again.
How come the place in Cornish doesn't go to the boat ramp?
Because their business is tubing and canoeing, and they come up to Cornish, come up, drop off the Sumners, they drive down twice a day with rafts, and then they go down to,
Oh, it's the one down in, down in
Yeah,
Boca.
yeah,
About
it's great.
crossing
yeah, it's great.
John Hammond's.
they're the one, they usually come twice a day, all summer long.
All summer.
So you're worried about the road impact?
Well, we just put hardback all the way down through there.
You know, I'm really
People go
struck.
fishing down there, but, you know, I'm not going down there every day to go fishing. They're coming down every day, twice a day with a boat and a trailer and van.
Right.
Okay, Rob.
And they're making money off of it.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Another permit.
Give it to that.
Okay. When the interstate was built, they drained the water off of that into a culvert that dumps it out by Mill Street. And over time, the water that comes out of there has been washing out a gully, and there's Guy Crosby has been following this a lot, and he's probably talked to you a lot about this too. It washes the silt out onto the cornfields down below, but it's eroding back fairly fast. And eventually it will get to Mill Street. And when Guy has talked to people at the state and talked to people, at the federal level about the interstate, they say, once the water leaves the interstate, it's your problem. And so, it's going to be the town's problem, but we wanted to give you some advance notice.
Yeah.
Guy has had some drone pictures taken over the past couple of years, so you can kind of see the progression of it. And it's pretty interesting, pretty amazing.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it as well.
Yeah, and V-Trans takes zero responsibility.
Yeah,
So where is it? Like,
Yeah, it's kind of pictures.
Go across the two covered bridges, and there's a small group of housing, Gary's Auto used to be there. Go right up there, and now on the right, you start to see the field. It's right in there, you can see it.
Okay.
But it's 30, 40 feet deep. It's not
It's
small.
coming towards Mill Street.
Yeah, but it's also taken out a lot of the fields. The Whites used to, when they owned that property, they used to ditch it all.
the ADA accessible trail at 17-acre route is done, and they will have some kind of a celebration this spring. There's some cosmetic stuff, landscaping and decoration.
Yeah, I for one would like to have someone from the school give us, or the Conservation Commission give us a walking tour, because we've been looking at it at various stages. And,
Yeah. Well, we're hoping that they would have some kind of an event that would be open to the public so that we could all see it.
Yeah.
I think it would be great.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to show up there in the middle of a school day saying.
Right. Well, that's one of the things that they're working out now is figuring out, because it's town property, theoretically it should be open to the public, but when school's in session, you don't want a lot of people going down there, but during the weekend or when school's not in session, it would be a great spot for people. So, the Upper Valley Land Trust is planning to do a celebration of the whole property sometime in June. We don't know the details of that, but they'll figure it all out, just tell us. And that would be, again, open to the public. It would be sort of like a mini land trust annual meeting that they would have there.
And I plan to come on my bicycle.
Yeah. You can do that until they tell you you can't. Green Up Day, May 3rd. The Army Corps of Engineers is looking for public comment.
Do we have to order a dumpster for that?
It's already ordered.
Oh, yeah, you're the best.
Posters up, dumpsters ordered.
All right. The Army Corps of Engineers is seeking public comment. They're updating their master plan for the North Hartland Lake recreational area. They had a meeting down at the library. I know Phil was there, probably.
I went there.
Yeah, last week.
Yeah.
And I put something on the listserv trying to encourage people to apply, comment if they have comments, but that's just something that's on our radar. We have probably 7 or 8 years ago, we wrote a little guide to Hartland's public places, and it's just kind of this size. It's on their website. We're now trying to expand that so that you would have something like this for the town forest, Sumner's Falls, for all of the town public properties. You would have kind of a 2-page thing that would be online that you could pull up and take a look at. So we're working toward that. Amphibian migration, we're still kind of waiting. We haven't had a combination of a warm night and a wet night on the same night, which is what we need for the really masses of salamanders. A lot of the frogs and toads will hop, anyway. So the wood frogs and the peepers are probably already in their ponds. But I think the salamanders may still be waiting. So we've been we have about 14 people, I think, that we've recruited who have been trained on how to do this. And when it looks like we might have a warm, wet night, Tina Barney is coordinating this with the commission, and she sends out a note, and they all have assigned crossings in town that they go out to and check and cover. So that's happening. Guy Crosby is doing a thing to recycle agricultural plastic that was in the Valley News. It was in Daybreak. They got a $20,000 grant from the Agency of Agriculture. They've got 50 farms participating. They're trying to get 40,000 pounds of plastic that they will then take down to Pennsylvania somewhere. So that's very cool. We have been writing a series of listserv posts based on Doug Talamay's book, Nature's Best Hope, and it's about how to modify your own yarn to make it more accommodating for insects and other animals and plants and stuff. I just put one up shortly before I came down here. And then lastly, Dan Gottsigan has joined the commission. We put him last month. We still have 2 openings, and we have one person who has applied, and we're hoping to have him come to our May meeting and talk to the commission so we get a sense to know him. There's another person who said that they would like to come to the June meeting and maybe apply. So I think, we've got a couple of people in the pipeline, so I think we'll fill those 2 positions.
So did you guys take any action on that applicant? Let me know.
Yeah, so normally what we do is we have them come to a meeting, we talk to them a little bit about why they're interested in Conservation Commission, what they would want to work on if they came, and then we'll make a recommendation. When we're ready to do it.
Rob, thanks for coming tonight. I appreciate it very much. And I think we're the better for knowing everything that the Conservation Commission is doing.
Yeah, I'd be happy to come, whenever you want to.
Thank you for all your work.
Thanks, Robert.
Sure. Thank you. John, we're going to go to the.
Yeah, please. I would appreciate it.
Yeah. Getting a little antsy. So Quechee Road summer maintenance is the next topic.
Yeah, so this has been discussed, a handful of meetings. So BJ is with us tonight to talk about potential work along the Quechee Road that's been kind of talked about at select board meetings in terms of what work that either the road crew can do or discrete tasks that we could look at contracting out to somebody to do, so the road crew can kind of do their standard summer work.
Yeah.
BJ, you went out and took a look around at things.
I did. There's a lot, there's shoulder work that needs to be done and some ditch work, but mainly it's the shoulder. Usually when you get a road paved, you, like we did it out on Clay Hill. It came along and the company did the shoulder work before it got paved, and they came and paved, and then we grass seeded everything. So Quechee Road is, you gotta get that water off that road, and shoulders are all like 75% of the place, of the whole road. Shoulders higher than pavement, so I don't know if it's something, we can plan and try to do it ourselves. Rent a wheeled excavator, go right along. I'm thinking, see how it goes. It could take a couple weeks, I think. We can go at it all day long.
The problem with work on the Quechee Road is traffic becomes a significant issue. unlike some of the back roads. So any work requires not just somebody in the excavator, but a flagging crew as well.
And people fly on that road.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like you'd have to go like the entire length of the road.
Yeah, you start at one end and mainly,
You're just like trenching out.
so a lot of it is taking the bucket width. Like a wheel excavator would work good on that road, and that's what they did on Clay Hill. They did the paved, both sides that got paved. I think it took a week to do both sides of Clay Hill, so I'm thinking it could take, 2 or 3 weeks.
Are you ditching or are you just taking the?
We're taking the shoulder, and there is some spots that need to be ditched, but that's just a little bit more time consuming, not too much. But you just put your bucket at an angle and just put it in first gear and just go until your bucket's full, and then.
So you're just knocking down the edges.
Yeah, walking down the edge and getting rid of that berm, so then water can shed off the road, and then when it is time to pave it, that is a huge chunk that's all done already.
Right, that was already suggested by the engineers.
So this is work that was, it's kind of, the engineers didn't suggest specific tasks like this. This is work that did, sorry?
They didn't.
Right, did not,
I heard him say that it was a good idea.
Yes, it's recognized, but they didn't call it out specifically in the report that they did.
No, I think
Right.
it helped save the road.
This is work that it would be recognizing that the Quechee Road needs to, large portions of it need to be rebuilt at some point, but it is not gonna happen this summer or likely next summer.
Right.
Well, what can we do as an interim step?
Hopeful. I think we're still hopeful that we could do a project next summer for, at least a couple of miles of that road.
Right.
Regardless, it has to be done.
Regardless, it has to be done, but this is work, what BJ's talking about is work that would at least help to alleviate the situation now and hopefully prevent it from continuing to deteriorate.
Yeah, but when they come along to reconstruct some of these sections, I mean, that work all has to get redone, it's gonna keep completely ripped
Well,
out.
I think the main section that they're gonna be working on is the spot before Webster that is just deteriorating down.
Well, I mean,
That's the main
if
spot,
we,
that's something we can't do.
yeah, if we're lucky, we'll get all the number 3s and 4s done for the bond.
Right.
BJ, I think I heard you correctly. That's a spot that either has ledge on one side or has the drop off, and you guys can't really.
No, I'm thinking, I don't know how that ledge is, I don't know if it's shale. Might be able to knock it down a little bit with an excavator.
Right.
And that would be helpful too, because it's right up against the pavement.
It's right there.
When they reconstruct, they're gonna go take the whole thing down.
They're probably gonna elevate it, is what they're gonna do, and then, yeah, they're probably gonna raise the road, take the tar off it, and then put new crushed stone and culverts in there without having to dig those trenches out.
So, PJ, the other thing in the report said that there was a number of clogged culverts.
So I checked the culverts that I don't know if you've been out the Quechee Road, but out past Draper,
Yeah.
dips.
Yep.
There's 3 or 4 down through there. Those culverts aren't clogged, but the culverts are, kind of crushed a little bit. They're still good, they're 18-inch culverts, but there's space going through, there's nothing inside. It's just the weight, and it wasn't.
And that's where the frost heaves are.
Yeah, it wasn't, compacted good enough, so they kind of crushed a little bit.
So I think what Jim is getting at is, if you do this, are we gonna end up paying for it to be done a second time when they fix the roads? Is that what you're trying to get at?
They want to make sure we're not throwing away work, but if it's something that helps get us to the end, then that's fine.
Yeah,
I think if you're gonna spend the money on getting this road paved, you're going to wanna get rid of the shoulder.
So they're gonna do that.
They're gonna do that, if that's part of their road, then it's nothing we need to do.
There's one more thing. So there's a certain amount of natural sloughing that takes place on those ledges, sand and wash that rolls down the steeps into those gutters that are naturally they're supposed to be cleaned every X amount of years to help maintain the road. So when the water comes down and it knocks the silt and sand into there and it quagmires the space and levels it out. So those should be cleaned out even after the road has been done in the future. because it's gonna build up more all the time, because it's a fluid. The gravel is a fluid, it's still gonna roll down that hill into those trenches, and they should have been taken care of years and years ago.
Right, so I think there's
So there's a reason to
deferred
do it.
maintenance, there's deferred maintenance that, what I think needs to be discussed or decided upon is there's deferred maintenance that could be done. Yes, we might, some of it might be recaptured or redone, but anything that we do now is beneficial.
I think so.
Right, we're not talking about spending $500,000. I think we're talking about, you know, a week's worth of time, 2 weeks worth of time in an excavator. There's a cost to that.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
And there's money in the highway reserve fund to do work potentially like this. So the question is whether or not we want to allocate the road crew's time and resources to doing that. And that means we are not doing other work this summer. Or do we want to put out an RFP to see if we can get a contractor in place to do this work?
So is there enough money in your contractor fund to get it done?
There is not money in the budget, in the highway budget this year to get this done. We would have to dip into the reserve funds to do it.
So, I can't remember the numbers, I thought we had like 200 and something thousand contractor dollars in the highway budget for things we needed to have done.
I don't remember that.
I don't have the budget in front of me.
We're way off topic here.
Yeah,
So, can I?
yes, please, Tom.
So what I would like to know, I think we were at one meeting saying, yes, we wanted to do some. The question is, what are you gonna have to give up? And this is an unfair question at this point, but if you have to spend a couple of weeks doing that, you're not doing something else. Would it be beneficial if we go and get a couple prices to see if,
I think you're gonna find out that the prices you go get are gonna be pretty high, because the big money thing is the flagging. They can put 2 weeks of work in, I can figure it out for the guys. But we gotta rent an excavator.
How many people would you have on the job?
I'd have to have 4 guys out
All
there.
4, because flagging.
And one guy will be out grading the whole time, but yeah.
One trucker, one running the,
And 2 flaggers.
Two flags.
2 flaggers, yeah. Where do you put all that material?
So, we try to go wherever it's closer. If somebody wants some material, we'll drop it off. Otherwise, we gotta bring it all the way to our town pit. But usually, there's people all around that want
They
material.
want
so-
fill, it's all silty sand,
Yeah, those just take
mud,
Rocks.
I got a
rocks.
survey that was done on 2 rivers.
You know, I just need to plan ahead and,
But you would have time.
Give us an update on where we
we'd
were.
have more time next year. This year, I'm trying to get, you
How
know,
close were we to needing?
crews going out.
Between
We're, we got excavator, we got a couple
Oh,
projects
yeah.
going on, and then the other crew, backhoe and truck will be doing swaps.
frame RTD?
One culvert a week.
No, so for.
So I have to kind of swap that out.
How much do people?
Hey, we're gonna spend 2 weeks on the Quechee Road. You know,
Jim, to answer your question, we have $25,000 in summer maintenance
Well,
for subcontract. I liked your number.
so it's only off by 1.
1
digit,
0. One digit, but it's an important one.
Are we gonna use that for the mowing this year?
no.
So,
I feel we're getting into the weeds.
yeah, so
there.
the question, I think the question is, we don't have this work in the budget.
Yep.
Right, we could do it. We would probably overspend on rental equipment if we had to rent a wheeled excavator to do this work. The dilemma is that it takes them away from doing
Grading.
grading, culverts.
Well, grading will get done, but the other stuff will.
No, I'm just wondering, but you guys are gonna, people are gonna be barking at you because something that you usually do, you're delayed, but I mean,
This is above and beyond standard work
Right.
that the road crews would be expected to do. It would be my recommendation that we use some of the reserve funds available to us to do some of this work, because it's gonna not fix the Quechee Road, but it's gonna not make it worse.
So you're saying use the reserve funds to have our town crew do it?
No,
Or reserve
to-
funds to have a subcontractor or a contractor come in?
A
and do it?
subcontractor to do the work. Because if the existing crew does it, something else is not getting done. And we have the money in the reserve fund to do this work.
Well, I think we need to know a price, I think.
Right, so I guess out of the meeting would be to put together an RFP to get quotes for this work.
And you and the highway crew would sort of decide where the work would be, best utilized at this point on that part.
Yeah, it all depends how much you want done, like I said, I'm thinking 3 to 4 weeks, you have that whole road, the shoulders done correctly.
Except for those except for that
Except for
Webster
that
area,
ledge, yeah.
which is,
But,
yeah.
But 3 to 4 weeks. Are you guys busy now? Something you could just jump into if you get the run?
sorry, what's that?
Are you busy?
Oh, yeah.
You are.
Yeah.
Right. We don't have, I'm speaking for the road crew here, the capacity to do this work and do routine everyday maintenance on roads. Even grading, there's a dump truck, there's somebody in the grader, right? When we do a culvert, it takes the road crew plus our buildings and grounds person.
Yeah, we're grading every day that it's not raining right now. We're got the backhoe out doing snouts, doing a culvert a week. Right now, we're spending the week. We're busy, just if we do this project, the culvert once a week and the snouts and the ditch work that we plan to do is not gonna get done for that 2, 3, 4 weeks.
Yeah, 3 to 4 weeks, running an excavator, operator, $2,000-3,000 a day, plus a truck, you're looking at 5 days,
I wouldn't be surprised if this work comes
if you
50, 60.
Yeah, I think you're running like you said, how many weeks?
I'm thinking
3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, you're talking 75 or 100,000.
Right, I think that, right,
Best case scenario.
Right, the other thing is we decide, okay, we don't want to spend 100,000, we only want to spend 50, and then with the town road crew, we decide which sections we want to do.
there is some water areas, pretty good brooks going through there.
Yeah.
I don't know much about the grant stuff, but.
right, so we have grants, we did, I guess they're taking all my town manager notes. Rob took a couple, so we have grants and aid money this year, we just submitted an application for grants and aid for say fiscal year 26.
So it's like 30.
Those are about $25,000 to $30,000 depending on the application. That work needs to be done on hydrologically connected road segments. I don't know what of the Quechee Road constitutes, is within that. We are in good shape, generally speaking, ahead of the curve.
I don't think it's connected at all.
Right, I'd be surprised if.
Well, a lot of brooks cross the Quechee Road on the way to Shepherd or to.
The municipal road general permit, which the grants and aid is meant to do, is to capturing runoff from roads into brooks.
Yep.
So cross culverts and things like that would not necessarily qualify for grants and aid work.
Right.
The work that we did along Jennyville Road last year, that qualifies. So.
So if I, just in the interest of time, I'm hearing the suggestion that we actually get some quotes.
Correct.
For go for the large picture and then scale back. And then we'll actually have some numbers to weigh and ultimately make that final decision of subcontracting. If we do go that route, how much, and what's the impact on the road crew for what you can get done this year? Should we go with our own group?
And the other thing you could consider is, do you only do the sections that we're not gonna reconstruct first?
Right, so do the sections along the good sections of the road, right. So I think that's the question that we'll get in contact with some local excavation companies who can do this type of work, see if they will give us
And then if we think we're gonna go to bond, if we think we're gonna have a town vote to go to bond and do the bad sections all in one shot next year, skip those, do the rest.
Correct. I don't have, I didn't look at the report before we're coming down.
Yeah, we have to go through that whole thing together.
Okay. How do we do?
Yeah, we didn't help him at all. He's right back when he started, he just lost a whole hour of his life.
We're gonna be on the Quechee Road all week, trying to smooth that out.
Yeah, thank you. I saw, I started diving on one side of the road today and said, oh, no, I don't have to do that.
Oh, yeah, we ran out, and I was like, oh, there's a big one. I wish we had a little bit more.
You don't need to turn the steering wheel.
Which was not next.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys heard the story yet, but my wife was dodging those potholes and someone on the road turned her in for drinking and driving, and the sheriff pulled her over in my driveway at my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, because someone turned her in for weaving through the potholes.
They're bad out there.
Well, it's good to know that our sheriff is hard at work.
I was like, it's funny, but
Did you invite him in for a beer?
It is
All right, we see
crazy,
it,
you know,
Bill.
we're out there flagging, and, today, New York license plate went by us going probably 60.
Yeah.
It was nuts. We're out there.
What if you go to Granger and get some, like, literally portable speed bumps to put either in?
Okay, do you want to talk about any
Interesting. I didn't know that.
issues? Well,
no, I don't want to talk about
I
it.
know you don't want to.
No, I don't, no, that can wait.
Okay, okay.
Whatever he wants to wait on, I want to talk
I
about.
thought you guys started at 6.
No, you're
I
fine.
was right on time at 6.
Hey, thanks, BJ.
All right, thank you.
See
Have a good one.
Thanks, BJ. So, okay, sorry. I don't want to.
I'm sorry, I'm just a big sigh, because we need to start doing that work, and I think it's some of the ditching would actually hold off some of that work, but anyways. Moving on to the report on Damon Hall and Recreation Center.
Correct, so we had a report done with a cost estimate that was done last year, last winter, basically, that outlined some of the work that we needed to do. We did some of that work last year, some of the culvert work, some of the drainage work at the rec center, the new sidewalk, new retaining walls here at Damon Hall, taking up the concrete slab around the edge of the building here, to kind of keep the water away from the building. I think it would be smart to look at next steps from there as well, outlined in the report. The report has some pretty big price tags in there. You know, looking through what I think are some of the kind of low, quote unquote, low hanging fruit items that we could do that would have a big impact. The roof above the side door here.
That wasn't done.
It was not done. The roof needs to be reframed and reconstructed. The snow sits in a corner. It's a dark side of the building anyway. Snow sits in the corner. It talks about putting in additional flashing and kind of taking that pitch of the roof off. Lower level windows at both structures. You can't see it here, but I can show you the window in my office in particular where there's clear water damage from water penetration. And then the other one, which I think is a safety issue more than a water issue, are the stairs. All 4 sets of stairs. So the front stairs here, the nature club stairs, the front stairs at the rec, and then actually the wooden deck stairs down from the school all need to be reconstructed.
And that's all
That's all outlined.
it's all estimated.
It's all estimated in the report. That is correct. What's not being addressed there are any of the interior things, particularly at the rec center. So a lift and sprinkling.
There was some easy, well, not, I won't say easy, there were some smaller items in the rec center that were in violation of the fire codes, like fire doors, things like that.
Yeah, fire doors and
Signage.
all interior doors and some signage. One of the concerns with the rec center, from my perspective, is that there are significant interior renovations that are likely needed. So spending money on the inside is a little bit like the Quechee Road. I'm afraid that when money becomes available, congressionally directed funding, whatever it might be, we're going to be redoing that work down the line.
So my question is, we've been notified as a town that we have the life safety issues in that building. If we don't address them, can we be held negligent if something happens?
I don't believe we can, because we are not under a mandate to fix them. We've been notified that they are an issue, yes.
That's it. You'll get more nasty letters. But this is throughout the state.
But I mean, if somebody got hurt there, right?
Well, sprinkler system But we're addressing the stairs. I mean, the big numbers are always the sprinklers.
If we don't address some of the smaller issues, and something happens, is that the situation we're negligent?
Well, you can always be sued. I mean, no matter whether you fix something or not.
Right.
So, oh, she's here now. So, okay.
Sorry, I was distracted by the fact that somebody came in from the upstairs because it was
So I'm
unexpected.
I just want to know, or I want to understand if the town would have a significant liability if we didn't address the life safety issues of that building.
I think it increases our liability by knowing it and not addressing it. However, we are not more liable if you were. We also have significant but regularly we have concerns and on the stairs, for example.
Yeah.
On a monthly basis, we have
Daily
stair
basis.
concerns. Yeah. Particularly with little kids going up and down.
Well, I agree,
The
it's there need to
stairs.
be done. Yeah. So one other question.
Yeah.
So the sprinkler system is like the big ticket item,
Big ticket.
$250,000.
Yep.
Right? But it's because we have the programs on the second floor. If we move those programs to the basement floor, does that eliminate the need to do the sprinkler system?
I don't know the answer to that question, but again, that speaks to like the interior renovations that might be needed at some point.
I mean, that's a movement of.
It's movement, but I think reconfiguring the space as well, because there's a lot of, the lower level of the rec center is a bit of a maze in the back.
Right, so, because you're talking the childcare, the cooperative childcare,
Right.
and the rec center programs.
And moving the rec center programs up.
Offices, yeah.
So John, I didn't do the math. What's the math on the proposed
The
things
math,
you'd like to do?
the math on the stairs and the windows and the roof is $259,900.
So what's our ARPA balance?
Our ARPA balance is $678,000. That's an unaudited ARPA balance, but that's.
On the stair, so I agree the stairs are gonna be done, right? But we have a situation where the stairs trap water, right? Because this doesn't roll off the sides, and the salt gets into that.
So the solution
That's
for
right.
the south side of the rec center is metal stairs.
Well, those wooden that, right?
The wooden, you're talking about the wooden ones.
Yeah, I guess so.
But like Damon Hall stairs, right? You just trap the water in the stairs because you have closed-in sides.
I think Damon Hall, we really should get some additional estimates, just to look away from concrete,
Yeah, it's a new design.
other material.
We also have, both structures are historic structures, so we need to ensure that any work that's done,
I think this one definitely is.
I believe the rec center is also a listed structure, but I can double check.
This is on the register of historic deed, of
Places.
places, right? I do not believe the rec center is.
So I think I concur with it, if people are saying it, so we go back to concrete, even if it's freshly poured, we're only going to be, future boards will be sort of saying, why did they do that? On that part.
They had open sides and granite steps.
Right.
You'd have a lot better.
Yeah, and
Give me the cost on that, it's probably, I think these cost estimates were built on the existing stairs.
Right.
So it does change the cost. However, I would say what I think would be beneficial is the board approving, moving forward with getting cost estimates for this work.
Yeah.
Because the longer we delay, we're gonna lose this construction season too.
I agree. I should go
for
look at the estimates.
Okay.
But we should be looking for a better idea for the stairs.
And I do continue to try to, it's a particularly bad time, but things like congressionally directed funding, because the interior renovations of the rec center, I'd venture to guess are gonna be, over $1 million.
right, and we did approach Senator Welch before you were here. We had for an earmark, and we, for the rec center, we had it laid out that way, so I think we should try again. And remind him that he played basketball at the gym, when he was a Horton resident, so. Okay, so I'm hearing you say that you're going to take the next steps to verify that the costs of a year ago are valid for this year and to get some contractors.
And
the
contact
scope of work spelled out.
Yep, historic preservation in terms of what would be acceptable stairs that at this structure, and then a contractor to do
Over here, right?
getting bids for the roof and the back stairs.
Yeah. I'm certainly not averse to having poured concrete on the sides, but on the front, I think we should explore something else.
If there's a solution that makes it go away forever, and it's not that much more money, we should do it.
Right.
Oh, going to a stone.
The stone stair.
Yeah, yeah, I was thinking if we could all go over to Proctor some night with our pickup trucks and take home a few pieces of the bridge over there and make those the stairs.
We just go to Trace's.
Did I say that?
Yeah.
I've already donated enough rocks. The guys came by for culvert stones. I have a pile
Yeah.
of remnants, and I told BJ he could have
Nice.
all he wanted out of there, but don't touch the other ones.
Okay. Okay, are you happy with
Yes. Yep.
the direction we just?
The non-direction we just.
The non-direction, but it was subtle direction.
I know it's this direction.
I know we meet a lot, we meet a lot, but could we, like, maybe, well, we don't wanna do that, cause then we can't all meet together.
Can
To
you
go
be
look
more
at that,
I can happily meet with you.
you would?
And potentially one other board member.
Sure.
You mean what?
Yes,
The steps.
the steps. Yeah, absolutely.
That's my forte, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and
It's-
let me be included because I've done some legwork as well.
Sure. I would like to, meet with you
And I did
guys
the
in
granite
person.
steps on Baker Library with Dr. Shield.
Well, that's
So on the court.
I think we could, why don't you just go over, what's next on the agenda?
My update.
Why don't we just tell her?
Yeah.
We already voted on your license.
Sorry, I thought the meeting started at 7 like a dumb person.
So,
Yep.
So it was voted on and approved.
Oh, thank
Okay.
you.
So thanks for coming.
I was like running around. This is like hard. But now I'm here, I'll say.
Right, well, all right.
Well, because this is very entertaining.
This is great entertainment right here.
Yeah.
Come on, it's like slow down, go.
Yes,
all right,
absolutely.
let's go. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
okay, let's move on to the town manager update then.
great. So since we last met, we have posted and then closed and hired Bob Quadrer as the
Oh, excellent.
Lister clerk position. So he is in that role, actively working to kind of move things along, get us through this grand list, get that all set. It's well known that he has all the resources available to him that he might need.
Good, and that was my follow-up question. Is he comfortable, and are you comfortable that we'll hit the target of, is it May or June?
June, I am comfortable, I am confident. Cheyenne has been helping with inspections, and getting those rolling and done.
Yeah,
So we are moving forward and I anticipate that being done as planned.
Will he have somebody with him, I forget what the process is called, like the abatement or the appeals process?
So I don't know.
I'll sign the grand list with him. I'll do the assessment process, sign the grand list with him, and I'll help him through grievances so that it's both of us in there. And then once he's done, I think officially I would be done and sign off on the no appeals or suits pending in December, but that's it.
Okay. And then you've got somebody ready to start on a contract basis?
Right, July 1, exactly. We also have currently 2 other bids out right now, or one closed last Friday for mowing for this coming summer. We got 2 bids. I anticipate not much changing from last year to this year.
and my question before is, where is that money coming from?
For mowing?
Yeah, if we go with an
Sorry,
outside.
this is for mowing.
Lawns.
This is lawns, Foster Meadow, Damon Hall.
Oh, okay, not roadside.
We'll come back to roadside mowing in a minute. With 2 Rivers, there's an open bid to do the design work on the Jennyville Densmore Hill culvert. That's closes this Friday. We've gotten kind of significant interest in that design project.
Is that a grant?
This is a grant that's paying for the design, yes. This is a V-Trans Structures grant that's paying for the design. We don't have a grant yet to pay for the implementation of it, but having the design in hand helps. So we'll be kind of, in essence, shovel ready when or if there's money available. We are looking into the possibility of contracting out the roadside mowing to free up, because essentially it takes a highway crew member off the road for 6 to 7 weeks of the summer. We do have a part-time seasonal employee who we may be able to train to drive the roadside mower. And then, the rest of the buildings and grounds work, the cemetery mowing and things like that would just fall fully on Rob's shoulders.
So there's no special truck license to operate the tractor?
No, it's a simple training exercise.
Okay.
We did look at the possibility of hiring a contractor to do it. We have the roadside tractor. It's strongly frowned upon to have a contractor using town equipment. So if our current part-time seasonal employee is not interested, we might look at the option of bringing on another part-time employee to do the roadside mowing.
Okay.
Because again, they have a pretty lean operation running with the 5 of them, and to pull somebody off really creates problems.
Yeah.
I mentioned the grants and aid request that's gone in. Sumner Falls is open. Mason, Thompson and I are meeting with a trail builder on Friday we are building a pump track in Foster Meadow. So for, youth and adults, kind of behind the wreck to the right.
Upstream?
Yep, upstream. That's being paid for out of the rec budget from their covered bridges money that they get every year.
Right.
So it'll be a nice rec addition to the town. Not. And then
I think my son left some 2x4s down there.
Roads are currently still posted. They're posted through May 15th. I anticipate those postings coming down sometime next week, kind of weather dependent.
Yeah.
There's still mud coming out on Weed and Hartland Hill in a few spots, but everything is holding up pretty well, and they're doing a good job of, keeping up on the grading. The 550 is still awaiting an engine.
Old 550.
We have negotiated down with New Car on the replacements. The current estimate is about 61 hours and about $5,400. There's still some questions on, they have some, 20 hours for a front pan. We're not quite sure what that means, so we're trying to get additional, more information. However, it was flagged today that that truck has been running without proper emissions control since we got it back last winter.
Because it wasn't done correctly?
I believe it was bypassed.
They took the catalytic converter off it.
The DEF.
They removed the diesel
DEF.
emission.
They
So
removed the
it would
DEF. Yeah. They worked around it.
Is this Martin's down here?
So yeah.
But that's a repair that wasn't done correctly.
It was a repair that was knowingly not done correctly,
And we paid for it.
and we paid for it.
So that sounds like a problem.
That sounds like it's that's an us problem.
Okay.
We told them to do it.
Yes. In order to get that hooked back up correctly, that adds $7,000, about $7,000 to the bill. So now we're looking at over $10,000, 13 months after we paid $10,000 for a new motor in that truck. So we're back to the question of whether or not we want to continue to sink money.
Did the new motor go in free or?
No, we're paying, the warranty is only paying $80 an hour for labor.
Right.
New car charges us about double that for labor.
I just bought a,
That's where the $5,500 is coming from.
And the motor itself is,
The motor itself is free. We're only paying for the uncovered labor.
and how much is a new truck?
75,000 for the truck, for the cab and chassis. We will have spent, rounding up $30,000 in the past 12 months in repairs on this truck.
If we continue.
If we continue.
How many weeks have we gone without it right now?
It has been out of service, I would say, for probably 3 to 4 weeks. Again, it was out of service for most of last winter, while it was getting the engine replaced.
I wonder,
Not this past winter, the previous one.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, 23, 24.
I wonder if we can put it up for sale
Yeah, Trace could use a truck.
I just
Buy my house every
I just
morning.
bought a 1-ton with like a 350 or
So
450
we would include
with
the new engine
plow
not installed.
and a sander for $12,000. So if you can buy, there's lots of trucks out there.
If we wanted a truck, right, we can get, this truck would get replaced with an F600, similar to what we just bought.
It's a 600.
It's an F600.
Pretty big truck.
Right, it's a big truck. This is the truck that gets the most use, the 550.
Right.
Right, it pulls the chloride trailer,
Yeah.
it pulls the hyperseeder,
It
it
does
gets,
the plowing where the big trucks can't go.
right,
What they do is if you trade it in, then what they do is they just send it to auction.
right.
So
They're not
nobody
gonna,
knows that it's destroyed somebody else's
Right.
problem, I guess.
so the benefit is I am reluctant to, move forward with the truck purchase so close to the past truck purchase. However, the repair bills keep adding up and are becoming problematic. We do have the money available to us if we want to do another purchase. It appears that the warranty on the trucks, and we went with the 5-year warranty on the 600, does not start until we get the truck back fully built. So in this case, if we went with a new truck tomorrow, we could have the cab and chassis within a few months, but then it sits in the shop until it goes up to Viking for the plow package. And it's maybe winter.
So you gotta decide quickly.
So we have to decide quickly if we want to have an operation next winter. But again, the warranty doesn't start until the plow package is on,
Well, if we get a new one.
if we get a new one.
Can you just refresh my memory, what did we buy recently?
An F600 and a
10-wheeler?
10-wheeler, yeah.
Do we have them both delivered?
No, we have the cab and chassis of the 600 in the shop right now, not being driven at all.
But we do have the 10-wheeler.
The 10-wheeler, I don't believe we have yet either. The 10-wheeler, I believe, is at Viking, waiting to be outfitted.
But we agreed to trade in trucks
Right.
that we have.
That one is going as a trade-in, yes.
Would it make more sense to trade in the F550 and hang on to one of the ones that we thought we were gonna trade in because of the bad quality
I
trucks?
don't think that the trade-in value on the 550 is gonna be,
But won't be.
Anywhere
It's gonna
near
cost us
approaching.
money either
Right.
way, right? But is it better, rather than wait maybe a whole year to get a replacement truck? So it doesn't, and you guys talk about, it doesn't make more sense to retain something we already have?
right. Yeah, I think it's a valid question. We can try to find an answer to it.
But you're gonna come back next meeting, and you're gonna say, I need this much money or this much.
Correct. And it's gonna be this much or this much. There's no this much.
Well, so
Unfortunately.
you're already there, you got it in the garage, it's getting fixed, they've done work to it, so we already owe them money,
They have not done the engine replacement yet.
the engine replacement.
Correct.
Engine replacement.
Yes.
And I do worry that if the DEF system has been stripped out, you have a quote for that.
Yeah.
That's a fairly complex system, that the computer on board is sort of trying to balance the emissions going down
Maybe
the
why the
pipe.
engine failed.
So what else is going to be wrong with that system, not the motor, but the rest of the
Oh,
system?
yeah, those the
So I really think we should
So we'll see what we can
cover
get
loss.
in terms of trade-in and what the timeline looks like for new trucks and the trade-in scenario that you outlined.
Do you have to get a new truck?
We do not have to get a new truck.
Can you get a used?
Well, that's the thing, we already have a used truck.
We get again, we purchased that 5-year warranty on new trucks, so then when these things happen, it's largely covered. The red truck is a 2019, so everything is out of date. It's the heaviest used truck.
But it's not covered or it is covered?
It is not covered.
Okay, so like I said, if you could find a way to trade it out and just get a used truck.
I mean, that's an option. So at the next meeting, there will be a suite of options. Maybe we can find a fully outfitted used truck that we could purchase for $25,000 or $30,000, for example.
Way better situation.
Right,
You already have one, you just don't trade it in.
right.
So,
Well, but you will have one that's junk, then
well, the junk one's gotta go.
The junk one's gotta go.
So whether the junk one is the one we want to trade out.
We have 2 other trucks currently that are in
Coming.
the process of being replaced.
Right.
And those trucks are
I'm ready to
under
move on.
construction.
But they say they're not gonna be suited up to run for months.
Dear colleagues,
Yeah,
not
so
to solve
people
this
love
anymore
to-
today.
At the next meeting, you'll see some options, but we do have to make a decision. It sounds like the decision is to not move forward with the engine replacement on the 550 and the DEF.
It's a
hookup,
lemon.
so it's gonna be,
The truck's a lemon. It's,
So I think
I don't disagree.
I don't hear anyone.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's our decision anyways.
Yeah,
Right.
go for it.
Right.
Do you have anything tonight on the Three Corners?
No, there's
Okay.
no additional update.
So future agenda items, we have the Three Corners intersection lights, the North Hartland covered bridge, the Bird Hill Road, and the town highway capital plan.
Capital plan, and we'll put on the North Hartland School. The capital plan, Brian Kovalik and I and I from Two Rivers are meeting. The highway side is mostly done. We met last week to talk about some of the town components, and we're meeting this week to hopefully put in the rest of the numbers there. And that should be ready for your initial review at the next meeting.
Okay, John left a piece of correspondence from our town treasurer.
Correct.
Can you give us some background on this?
So it's required every year. Karen fills this out. There's nothing more, no action is needed. It's simply, of course, it's simply a report that we get from the treasurer every year. So if you look through it, everything seems to check out. I think the one thing that comes out when you look at it is that we don't have great plans and policies in place for the finance office. So working to put those together in a more formal way. I think they exist. It's a little messy at times, but those plans and policies do exist. So
We
we're
have
working to,
these procedures in our office if you wanted to use them to.
yeah. So I think that it's simple to, relatively straightforward to get these in place.
But our answers, best practice, because it looks like, when you read it, our checks written by the same individual who approves payments, yes. Should that say no? It's like the sixth up from the bottom.
Our checks written by the same individual who approves it. Yes. I don't know that answer should be no. I think that answer is yes. You know, when we write checks, they're written and then, you know, Karen is double checking to make sure that we are in place here.
So, it's reading the warrants.
But I think that a plan or a policy in place or procedure to outline that is the gap, and that's what we should clarify.
But this says the same person writes and approves.
There's some red flags.
Yeah.
I don't.
Let me show you, I can send you our stuff.
Okay.
And let you
Multiple signers.
see.
Okay.
Checks and balances.
Right.
The other thing is we really shouldn't have dominoes.
Yes, I would agree. Those were problematic. Yes. Yeah. So like cleaning up some of the ones that we don't know and, you know, things that we don't know, we should know the answer to some of these, to all of these questions.
Just given that we're talking about engaging Nimerick and there was some software changes, what is the accounting software stable as far as we know going forward? You know, are there any major releases, any changes from Nimerick at all?
Not that we've been made aware of, no.
Great, that's all we need to know.
Nemrick supplies warnings that pop up when they sign in. It says updates available.
Yeah, and I think it'd be hard to bypass them.
I'd ask a slightly different question. Is Nemrick kind of cyber hardened from attacks? Yeah. Do we know anything about how they maintain?
We don't know, I don't know Nimerick's cybersecurity. I do know that, you know, CCI as our IT provider does a lot of that. However, you know, Nimerick does, just from its looking at it,
an old archaic system.
It's not the most user-friendly system in the world.
CCI was looking to add two-factor authentication to our emails, and that was left in limbo. Because I had some, apparently I was a lucky person where there was a Microsoft update and I was using something in between, and my email didn't work for a couple of days. And when we added it back, that was when the two-factor authentication came back. I'm not against that, but it would be, for my email, it would be an inconvenience. Okay, any other business we should be looking for a motion to adjourn?
Finally. I'd like to stay and talk for a while longer.
Okay, Jim, I would like to stay and talk,
Good, shut the lights off when you're done talking to yourself.
okay.
Last 5 minutes, man.
So I think we have the suggested